danger, they're smooth.
I like your style. I like your moves.
In the line of duty, they're explosive.
Stop shooting my car!
And when it comes to fighting crime, they know just how to do it. Do it.
Alright.
From the director of Old School and Road Trip.
I know some people that rob some people.
Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson.
Which one do you like if we're going to stick to this? I've always had a thing for blondes, because I'll take anything.
Starsky and Hutch, rated PG-13, directed by Todd Phillip.
So yeah, this is a very interesting movie, especially considering that I was clearly too young for Starsky and Hutch, the original series, and this was my basic introduction to the series as a whole. But the premise, you can tell, is pretty much a straightforward buddy cop movie where, you know, you've got the guy who's the straight arrow, and you got the guy who's always by the book, and then you have the guy who plays by his own rules. And here, pretty much the same thing here. You've got Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson as two streetwise undercover cops in the fictional city of Bay City, California, in 1975, busting drug criminals with the help of underworld boss Huggy Bear, played pitch perfectly by Snoop Dogg. We'll get to the casting in a little bit here, because it's pretty damn amazing. This is a prequel to the TV series, as it portrays Starsky and Hutch first being partnered, and it's notable because it switches the personalities of the title characters. In the show, Starsky was curious and streetwise, Hutch was by the book. Meanwhile, in this film, it's Starsky who's the serious cop, and Hutch is the one who's laid back. Hutch is played by Owen Wilson, Starsky's Ben Stiller, and directed by Todd Phillips, who had done Road Trip and Old School before this, and it's his magic that makes it work in this case. A lot of his early films were really, really good, and here's another one of those examples of a film that really feels like something that could have been seen in the 1970s, honestly. I mean, it feels like a 1970s comedy. But then again, it was made in 2004. But that's the great thing about it. From the camera angles to the way that it moves around like you're watching the television show, it literally does feel like something straight out of the 70s. And I think that's one of the most impressive things about this particular movie, is that even though it does change the rules around a lot in this, it's not afraid to be over the top and ridiculous. I mean, it's fun. It feels like a fun homage to the television series, and does it more with a modern setting too, because there's a lot of jokes in here that are very much in a modern setting. Like, you have a lot of jokes that would probably play in a modern comedy, and it's done here in a way where it doesn't feel like you're out of the decade, and at the same time, it feels like a modern-day movie at the same time. It's like a perfect meshing of the two, and just the casting overall is really damn good. Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson are great as the title characters. Vince Vaughn is great playing the bad guy in this. You see Juliette Lewis in here, Jason Bateman, Carmen Electra and Amy Smart actually have two fun roles here playing cheerleaders. The guys end up dating. There's another one, Brandy Roderick, who plays a cheerleader they're interrogating her, and it's a really funny scene. Will Ferrell has a cameo in here as well. This is kind of after his success with Elle. And Ben Stiller was more I think about it, Ben Stiller had a pretty good year in 2004, because he had Along Came Polly, he had this movie, and then he would follow it up again in the summer with Dodgeball. So, a big year for him in general, but the movie's just fun, and Snoop Dogg is Huggy Bear. I mean, pitch perfect casting right there. I mean, that guy just sells the role. I don't think anybody else could have played him in this particular movie. The movie knows straight up exactly what it has to do to entertain its audience, and it also appease the fans of the television show. I mean, the ending, where you have the original Starsky and Hutch, David Sewell and Paul Michael Glaser, in kind of like a passing of the torch scene, like, that's how you know, the movie does a very good job of handling that situation, because, you know, when they bring in actors from the television show in general, it could feel like it's a little bit of fan service, but if it's done well, if you do it well enough, like with Ghostbusters Afterlife, what did they do with Ghostbusters Afterlife? They brought the original Ghostbusters in, and it didn't feel like fan service, but if it's done well, it feels like fan service, but if it's done really well, and you completely forget that you see it as kind of nostalgic fan service, you can really appreciate all the things about that, what they managed to do there. And with Starsky and Hutch, I feel like they do the exact same thing here. Everything about the movie, it's funny, it's really well done, it can be stupid at times, it can be really clever at times. It feels like a film straight out of the 1970s, but it feels like something in a modern-day setting as well. It doesn't really get talked about all that much, man. It's a movie that was a big hit when it came out, and then just kind of faded off into obscurity as these guys eventually went on to become bigger and better names. And this was the beginning of the Frat Pack era, too. And it's just really, really funny stuff, man. I was really happy that this movie held up well over time, because it's still a friggin' funny movie, man. And definitely another one of those winners for Todd Phillips, who was really coming out of the gate strong early on with old school road trip, and then this film. But yeah, a really, really good film that I highly recommend checking out if you haven't seen it already. It's a very good, it's a very fun, good time. I really enjoy it. Starsky and Hutch. So with that said, let's move on to the last movie we have here, and that is Viggo Mortensen, after his success with The Lord of the Rings, hoping to make another success out of his next film, and that is Hidalgo.
1,000-mile race across the Arabian desert. You are gambling with your very life. Who's there to race?
Viggo Mortensen. Hidalgo, based on a true story. Rated PG-13. See this trailer again at Yahoo Movie.
Ah, the good old days when you had to go to Yahoo Movies to watch the trailers for these movies. We didn't have YouTube back in 2004. That was still about 2 years away. So you had to either go to Yahoo Movies or you had to go straight to the website for the movie to actually see the trailers for these. But this was directed by Joe Johnston, too. The trailer didn't even mention that, but this is a story about Frank Hopkins and his Mustang Hidalgo, and it recounts Hopkins racing from his horse in Arabia in 1891 against Bedouins riding pure-blood Arabian horses. The only other big name in the movie is Omar Sharif, and if Omar Sharif's the second big name in your film, you better have a damn good movie to go with it. And unfortunately, I don't think there really is enough there to carry Hidalgo as a good film. It's a movie that has a lot of ambition to it. You can see the effort being put into it with the visual effects and all. I mean, the sandstorms are pretty cool to watch. And Viggo Mortensen can be a very good actor, but I feel like this was a film that Disney was hoping for a lot more because Mortensen was just in the Lord of the Rings movies, and they probably thought, well, this guy's going to be a superstar after this last Lord of the Rings movie. We got to cash in right away, and not so much. It's not that the movie is bad or anything, it just feels kind of pointless. I mean, like I said, sometimes the visual effects can look pretty cool. Sometimes the casting overall can be decent as well, but at the same time, there's never enough there to really make this movie stand out as something more than just an interesting idea, but a botched opportunity in the end. And it's also too long, too. It's over 2.5 hours long, and it just feels like it's overstaying its welcome because it's never really doing anything that makes this significant or much different compared to other movies of its type. It's a film that has some interesting ideas overall, but just never enough to really carry the film all the way through. And Joe Johnston's trying the best he can, but sadly it's not enough to really carry the film over to something that I would say is something worth watching. I mean, a lot of possibilities there, but just botched execution overall just kind of stymies the movie to being anything spectacular. It's a miss for me on this one. It's a shame because the possibilities were there with something they could do here. If there was a much cooler story idea here, unfortunately, there really isn't, and it just kind of falters in the long run. You can see why Viggo Mortensen, after this, I guess after this, he was very careful with what projects he picked because, you know, the next thing he did was a history of violence. I almost said House of Violence, a history of violence, and then he followed that up with Eastern Promises, and then he very rarely picks movies and focuses more on his artwork. Because, you know, I think he takes the Daniel Day-Lewis approach where he doesn't take a good script anymore unless he realizes it's a good script to work with. And I guess Hidalgo was probably the movie that probably turned him off to doing more movies after this. But then again, that's just my thinking of it. I'm just thinking that he is one of those people like Daniel Day-Lewis who really takes the time to do other things before he takes a script that he thinks will actually work to his advantage. And I think Daniel Day-Lewis also was the same thing too, because there was that break in between There Will Be Blood and Lincoln where he didn't really do a whole lot until he was given the proper script to work with here. I'm thinking maybe that's what Viggo Mortensen does as well, but then again, I could be completely wrong on that. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I think that's what he does here with this. And I think Hidalgo was the movie that made him say, okay, I got to be more careful with what I pick here. But then again, that's just my thinking. So, Hidalgo, can't really recommend it. Not a bad film, but certainly not a great one either. So based off of a Stephen King short story, Johnny Depp plays a successful writer, Mort Rainey, who's going through a rather unfriendly divorce with his wife of 10 years, played by Maria Bello. Alone and bitter in his cabin, he continues to work on writing a story when a stranger named John Shooter, played by John Turturro, shows up on his doorstep claiming Rainey stole his story. Mort says he can prove the story belongs to him and not Shooter, but when Mort digs around for the magazine which published the story in question years ago, things begin to happen around Shooter. Mort's dog dies, people begin to die, his divorce proceedings with Amy continue to get uglier. It seems that Shooter has Mort over a barrel, but perhaps Mort has his own ideas of how to resolve all the problems that plague him lately. An interesting idea. David Coeb, of course, is a man who has made a lot of movies as a writer, wrote great stuff like Bad Influence, Jurassic Park, Carlito's Way, The Paper, Panic Room, Spider-Man. This is only his third directorial outing after the Trigger Effect and Stir of Echoes, which are both really good films. This is a film, however, that I feel like I should like more because I like the idea. I like a lot of the elements they throw in here, but it's a movie that is very, very much all over the place. It's a movie that really doesn't know which direction it really wants to take itself in the long run. Like, it feels like a film that should have a simple, straight-minded storyline of where to go, but it just never really gets to that point where you get a sense of what they're trying to accomplish here. And it just fails miserably when they get to the final ending of the movie, and it's just like, really? That's how this whole thing's going to end? The trailers had a whole lot of promise to it. There's a lot of really good talent involved in here. Like I said, Johnny Depp, John Turturro, Maria Bello, Timothy Hutton, Charles S. Dutton in here. A strong cast overall, and David Koch can be a very good director, as he's proven in the past couple films, and even after this with Ghost Town. But even in something like this, it just feels like he's really pushing his luck here. I don't think I don't know. I just feel like this is one of those Stephen King stories that really could not be really represented well on the big screen. I mean, certainly better than Dreamcatcher the year before, but I don't know. Me personally, I was a little bit disappointed by it. I mean, Johnny Depp I thought was pretty good in it, so was John Turturro. They were probably the two best things about it. But other than that, though, it's definitely a film that has a lack of thrills when it really should not. I mean, it had so much promise from the trailers alone, but it just can't live up to those promises with an ending as bad as this is. It's a shame, because the possibilities are there, just not the right execution, unfortunately. So that's sequel window. So let's go ahead and move on to the sequel to last year's breakout hit, Agent Cody Banks, Agent Cody Banks 2, Destination London.
A secret government facility. Agent Cody Banks has been trained to handle any situation. Parents' Day. But on March 12th, he's got a new partner. And a whole new adventure.
Are you telling me that the CIA was behind Beanie Babies?
Doesn't know what they're Beanie Babies. Agent Cody Banks, Destination London. Rated PG. Starts Friday, March 12th.
It's probably not a good sign when the funniest joke in the whole movie is in the trailer. I mean, the scene where the Beanie Baby attacking Keith David. I mean, come on. That's really the funniest thing in this entire movie. But Agent Cody Banks 2, Destination London is pretty much your straightforward, let's rush the sequel out there, even though we haven't really given the first one a chance to really get a chance to appeal to most people out there. Even though it was a success, I still feel, I think they, like I said, I said it before, I think they were trying to go with the Spy Kids method of, like, getting these movies out once a year. But the Spy Kids movies had a fan base that was building with the other films, and a visual style for Robert Rodriguez that added to the popularity of those movies. But here, I just don't think it was there this time around. And you have a story here where it takes place in London, obviously, and Cody and his buffoonish adult partner Derek, played by Anthony Anderson, which I feel like he was brought in there because he was the rising star and kind of trying to be the Richard Pryor like Richard Pryor in Superman 3, except in Cody Banks. But Cody and Derek try to recover stolen software and stop the activation of the government's mind control project. And yeah, this is definitely not as good as the original film. And you know, obviously you don't have it for some reason. Angie Harmon isn't there. Neither is Hilary Duff. Not even the same director that was in there. And you know, the director tried to come back for it, but he left over financial disagreements. You know, he had wanted the figures to. He wanted to. It's, according to MGM executives, they disputed Swartz's figures, saying that twice they had bumped up the film's budget during negotiations to meet his expectations. The budget was around $30 million, and the price kept moving up, as often with sequels. And then they offered it to Kevin Allen, who directed The Big Tease with Craig Ferguson before this. And I don't know, this just feels like a rushed sequel, and it doesn't even feel like a sequel that they wanted to make. Like, we're going to get to the Garfield movies later on, and obviously one of the big things about Garfield 2 was the fact that they made it because the first film was a success in London. I feel like they did the same thing with this particular movie, and I think just the zeitgeist of it was just quickly abandoned, and there really wasn't a whole lot there for this movie for this series to really continue after that film, even though they've had attempts to try to continue it. I think Frankie Muniz actually had MGM pitch him ideas for 2 different sequels, one a family-friendly sequel, and the other would be an adult-oriented animated series, with the series being like Cody Banks training a new group of teenage spies, similar to BoJack Horseman, but I don't know. I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't make any direct-to-video sequels after this. I mean, this feels like a series that would have continued with direct-to-video sequels, and they just never really did it, and I was actually kind of surprised by that. But, yeah, it's a lame sequel. It's nothing all that exciting or fun, especially compared to the first film. The first film was at least fun, but like I said, the best thing about the movie, we just saw it in the trailer with that Beanie Baby attacking Keith David. I mean, come on. Like, it's the funniest scene in the whole movie, and it's not a good sign when the funniest scene in the whole movie is in your trailer, and it just, I don't know, it just feels like a film that should have been a whole lot better. The chemistry between Muniz and Hannah Spirit doesn't work all that well. The villain isn't that great either. It's just a disappointing sequel, and you expect so much better from it, especially considering how surprisingly good the first film was, and sadly, that's not the case this time around. So yeah, this one pretty much just came and went. So did our next movie, David Mamet's latest film, and that is Spartan.
Where's the girl?
They took her.
Who's they?
I don't want to get in trouble.
I need a man who can unquestionably follow orders. I am here to get the girl back.
She was snatched while he was cheating on his wife. It comes out they lose the election.
She wanted to bring the man down.
Stop looking for her.
You had to put on your thinking cap.
So when the U.S. government's secret ops, Val Kilmer plays a shooter who is not a planner doing the job with no regard to quaint or obsolete convention. And when a Harvard undergrad goes missing, Scott applies the pressure to first to her boyfriend, then to a madam whose cat house is the initial stop en route to a white slavery auction in Dubai. The abductors may know the girl's identity, but once they figure it out, she's doomed. Deadly double-crossing forces force Scott to become a planner. Though through it all, earnest TV newscasters read the drivel they're handed. Again, this is IMDb, and this is IMDb, man, you gotta check some of these synopses, because this does not make a whole lot of sense at all, the way that this is written down here, but you get kind of the idea from there. And you got a cast that you saw in the trailer: Val Kilmer, Derek Luke, Ed O'Neill, William H. Macy. There's also Kristen Bell. This is one of her first films, actually, I think, before she became famous with Veronica Mars later in the year. Clark Gregg from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Tia Texana. A good cast overall here. And, this is a film that, this is right up David Mamet's alley, but it's one of his few films that I really do feel like that he missed the mark on. I mean, it's a movie that does have a lot of potential to it, a lot of visual flair to it, but it just feels like a film, like, this was around the time when Mamet's career was kind of on the downward spiral. He started off his career so promisingly, with stuff like, The Post with The Verdict, The Untouchables, Glengarry Glen Ross, House of Games, Things Change, Spanish Prisoner, a lot of really good movies, and this just feels like a film that, again, has so much potential to it with the cast that they have. Ed O'Neill, people forget that Ed O'Neill is a damn good dramatic actor, man. Like, before everyone knew him as Al Bundy, he was he was in a bunch of movies where he played a dramatic role. Like, he was Popeye Doyle in a TV series, and then after Married with Children ended, before he did Modern Family, he did a criminally underrated Dragnet show produced by Dick Wolf of Law & Order. It unfortunately lasted a few seasons, but it really should have continued on, man. But then again, not even David Mamet could escape the wrath of Franchise Pictures. You saw that it was Franchise Pictures at the beginning of the commercial, so you automatically know that chances are you're not going to get the best quality film out of this, no matter how hard you try, and no matter how much talent you put to it. And there's a lot of good talent involved in here. The story just really isn't that engaging or interesting. It's really boring. Nothing really exciting happens, and you just expect so much more because of who's on board for this. It's a shame, because the possibilities were there, just the execution was not there whatsoever. And it really sucks because it's David Mamet. David Mamet is a damn good filmmaker, but this is one of his few stumbles as a writer and director, and it pains me to say that, especially with the talent that they have on here. So that is Spartan. Let's go ahead and move on to our last film, and that is NASCAR 3D, the IMAX experience. You gotta love the days when the IMAX theater 3D experience always had to have like the logo or the trailer card coming right at you. Like it really is like they didn't even try to hide it back then. It's just like that. Like it's kind of the equivalent of me doing this, except like yeah, it's just I miss that era honestly. Even though there's some movies that still try to do that today, but that's an era that's an era that I think most people have forgotten about, but. I don't know, kind of wish they brought it back again. But this is NASCAR 3D, the IMAX experience. It's Warner Brothers' first IMAX 3D film, and it's directed by Simon Wincer, who's directed a couple movies we've talked about, and narrated by Kiefer Sutherland, which provides an educational overview of the origins, evolution, and current state of NASCAR. And it also explains how the sport works, from the rules to the aerodynamics, the various tasks the teams take on to prepare for each race each weekend, and the risk NASCAR drivers experience during every race. Now, keep in mind, this is before the rules of NASCAR changed completely. All the different playoffs they have, and like it's just gotten ridiculous now. But this is back when it was straight and simple, straight to the point. You got famous NASCAR riders like Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Newman, Mike Hilton, and it's only a 48-minute movie, so it's not even that long of a film in general. I don't know. It's one that I was kind of curious about when I saw the trailers for it back in the day, even though I wasn't a big NASCAR person. Just something about seeing these cars on the big screen like IMAX had a lot of potential to it, and I never got to see it in theaters. I did eventually get to see it on DVD, and it's pretty interesting to see what it looks like. I mean, it would have been nice to see it on a big screen, not even, maybe on an IMAX screen, but like an HD screen, HD TV screen like we have nowadays. But like, it's a film that has a lot of interesting ideas. It's kind of similar to Michael Jordan to the Max, where you get to see like Michael Jordan doing what he does best on a big IMAX screen. It feels like you're right there. Like it does feel like that with this particular movie in general. I kind of wish that they had done a little bit more in terms of the length. It's only, like I said, it's only about half of an hour and a half. I mean, only about 45 minutes, and there really isn't a whole lot to really explore what NASCAR shows off. And I don't know, I thought it could have been a little bit longer, but as it is, I thought it worked very well. I thought it was a very well put together film, a fun little IMAX documentary short, not even a short film, if you will. I mean, you get the idea. It's a very short movie, but not a short film, but just it's shorter than you would expect from a feature length film. But still worth checking out even if you're not a big NASCAR fan. You can still appreciate some of the visuals that they have involved in this. So I recommend NASCAR 3D.
International health hazard or military concern? Both. Are these things alive or dead? We don't know. There's no more room in hell. The dead will walk the earth. Dawn of the Dead. Rated R. Is everyone dead? Dead-ish. Starts next month.
That TV spot is good, but the trailer for this is amazing. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you all of it because, you know, the copyright system and all that, but I have to show you this one part here. If anything's going to make you want to watch this movie, it's that damn trailer, especially when that scene pops up, when you think the trailer's just cut off altogether, and all of a sudden you see the zombie hands coming to the screen. I can't imagine what that was like, seeing it on the big screen for the first time, when those people saw that in the trailer. But yeah, this is the remake of George A. Romero's classic movie, which, as you can tell, I've shown in my movie stop episodes that the mall I go to is the Monroeville Mall, which is of course the original location of the setting where Dawn of the Dead is, and there's still a zombie museum there. I always say hi to my buddy George. His bust is right across from right on the bottom of where the zombie museum is at, which I've taken you before in a previous video. So I'm gonna have to compare the original Dawn of the Dead to this, and you know, this is a film that is essentially a remake of the original George A. Romero movie set in modern times and set in Milwaukee, where you follow a group of survivors who try to survive a zombie apocalypse holed up in a suburban shopping mall. So essentially, the same movie as the original film, and Universal actually bought the rights from the original people who made Dawn of the Dead, and brought in James Gunn, who wrote the script for this. It was actually one of two movies he wrote in March of 2004. The other one being Scooby-Doo 2, which we'll get to next week, but needless to say, this one is definitely the better film. And essentially the idea was basically to center it around the action genre instead of making it just a straight-up horror movie. And that's when Zack Snyder comes into play, taking it over with the goal of keeping every aspect of the production as grounded in reality as possible, which for Zack Snyder is keep in mind, this is back when Zack Snyder wasn't the Zack Snyder that we know him for today. And I'm grateful for that, because you know what? This was actually a pretty good remake, even though George A. Romero himself was not the biggest fan of it. I'm assuming when it came out, I don't know if he actually changed his mind later on down the road. In fact, let me see. I'm just kind of curious. It doesn't say if he came around to it, but he was not a big fan of this movie when it came out in 2004. In fact, the next year, he actually got a chance to make his own sequel to Dawn of the Dead with Land of the Dead, which, not quite as good as this movie is, but I think it's a lot better than people let on. But this is a film that is essentially a modern-day version of the original film. And I think the original film, in particular, I think holds up better. Not just saying that because I literally live about 15-20 minutes away from where that movie was filmed, and I get to see all the sets and all the places where the movie was filmed and all that. But Zack Snyder does a very good job of making this a modernized telling of it, but not doing the same thing over again. Like, one of the biggest problems with the Tom Savini Night of the Living Dead movie that was made back in 1990 was that it was essentially just a colorized, straight-up remake of the original 1968 movie, which I don't think was as bad as people let on, but I will definitely say it was a pointless remake. At least with this one, they actually do take chances with it. The idea of making it an action film, too, kind of like how the zombies now can run like crazy, and 28 Days Later, I think that was a big motivation for Zack Snyder making this movie. Plus, they introduced new ideas to it. Like, there's the big scene where, of course, you have the woman who's pregnant, and she gets bitten by a zombie, and when she's about to have the kid, it turns into a zombie as well. And that's an idea that's really, it's impressive to think about, but it's also kind of disturbing to think about. And the way it's done here, it ain't the best overall, but the idea of it is so good that I kind of give it a free pass because of that. And the film itself is really good. I think it's a very good, straightforward retelling of the original film while giving it a modernized setting. The acting overall is really good. You got a lot of talent here. Sarah Polley, of course, went on to become an Oscar winner for writing. Ving Rhames is in here. Jake Weber, Mekhi Phifer. You know, a really strong cast overall in the movie that really makes this material work as well as it does. And, you know, it's a fun film. It's a really enjoyable movie. As somebody who grew up with the original, who knows much about the original Dawn of the Dead, I necessarily grew up with it because I didn't actually see the original Dawn of the Dead until much later on down the road. I think the first time I saw it was like in 2016, I think. 16, 17, I could be wrong on that, but it was around that time. But without a doubt, the original film I do think stands out as the best. But Zack Snyder made a pretty damn good remake of it. I think he did a very good job of modernizing it. There's great talent on board with the casting, the writing, and the direction. I do think that carries the load better. It's in making a modern horror film, which is especially compared to some of the modern horror remakes we got after this. This one really was the best of the bunch. And it just really shows that, hey, Zack Snyder wasn't a hack director who was just making really bad movies just for the sake of really bad movies, because he's made some really, really bad movies the last couple of years, but this is back when he showed everybody what he could do, and does a pretty good job with it, honestly. I really like this movie. I think it's a very good film. I think you'll really find a lot to appreciate about it. It's a great modern retelling of the original story. I think it did its job better than the 90 Night of the Living Dead movie. I really liked it. I thought it was really good, so So that's Dawn of the Dead. So let's go ahead and move on to the bad film, and that is DJ Caruso's Taking Lives, starring Ethan Hawke and Angelina Jolie.
I was a deeply disturbed person. Not was. Is.
Taking lives. That's what Martin Asher's been doing for almost 20 years. His first victim he covered up with a car accident, and then he took the boy's identity.
I saw him, and I can show you what he looks like. Why did you tell the police about me? You have something that I want. Taking lives.
Rated R. Starts Friday, March 19th.
And again, I gotta show you this scene from the trailer, because I'm sorry, that scene where the guy is pushing the guy in front of the bus is absolutely hilarious in the trailer.
It could be, but my son died 19 years ago.
I'm sorry. That was supposed to be intimidating and scary? No, that looked hilarious. That looked like the teachers throwing Eric Cartman in front of the bus in South Park. That was how bad that looked. But, it fits the movie because, man, this is a really, really bad movie that has so much potential to it, but, man, this is rough. And you have the plot is pretty simple. You have an enigmatic serial killer who takes on the identities of his victims, and Angelina Jolie is investigating this. You have Jenna Rollins in here, who plays the mother of the accused of the serial killer. And like I said, this is directed by DJ Caruso. This was one of his earlier films, and it's definitely one of his lesser films. I will say that. It's a movie that really does not fit what DJ Caruso would eventually give us later on down the road. But man, this is a bad movie. This is another one of those movies like Twisted that has one of those terrible twist endings that you see coming a mile away. The fact that, I'll just say this, the fact that Ethan Hawke says, I know who this person is and I can show you who he is. It's like, if you don't know who the bad guy is at that point, then you clearly have something wrong with you. In fact, I don't even need to tell you what happens in the movie. The poster literally has a picture of who the serial killer is. This is probably not the best size of it. Let me give you a larger version of this. I mean, look. That's Ethan Hawke. I mean, they're trying to make it think it's Kiefer Sutherland because he's also in the movie, but that's friggin' Ethan Hawke's face. And I love this other trailer, this other poster that I just found, because it doesn't even bother to hide the fact that it's clearly not supposed to be Kiefer Sutherland. It's literally Ethan Hawke. But I mean, that's not as bad as this one. But my God, like, if you can't figure out that that's Ethan Hawke in this trailer as the serial killer, that's just, you clearly have some problems here. Like, you could figure it out right from the get-go, and the posters aren't even hiding the fact that it's pretty much who you think it is, and that's how bad this movie is. The fact that you can't even is that if you could figure it out so quickly, where's the twist here? Like, where's the whole idea that this whole movie, what's the whole purpose of this movie's existence? Like, what am I supposed to take away from this, honestly? But yeah, it's a bad movie. It's a really, really bad movie. It has a terrible ending. It's a really abysmal film on so many levels. Too many good, talented people involved in this. DJ Caruso's made better movies than this. This is straight up garbage. This is a terrible film. It's a movie so bad, it has so many laughable moments in here that are not supposed to be funny. It's a terrible movie. It's one of the worst movies of the year, easily. No question about it. Excuse me. It's so bad that I can't even talk straight. But I digress. That is Taking Lives. So let's go ahead and end this on a high note with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And you know what? I've been trying to, screw it. I may get copyright claimed on this, but I'm sorry. I've got to show you this trailer because it's an amazing trailer.
The following is a paid advertisement from Lacuna Incorporated. The views expressed do not reflect the opinions of the management of this theater.
Hello, I'm Howard Mirziak, founder and president of Lacuna Incorporated. Why remember a destructive love affair? Here at Lacuna, we have perfected a safe, effective technique for the focused erasure of troubling memories. In a matter of hours, our patented non-surgical procedure will rid you of painful memories and allow you a new and lasting peace of mind you'd never imagined possible. This is a hoax, right? I assure you, no.
Is there any risk of brain damage?
It's on a par with a night of heavy drinking. Nothing you'll miss.
That's right, Universal. Give me the copyright claim now, because I know you're going to as soon as I put that up there. Not that it's going to get copyright. It's probably going to get copyright claim anyway for some other stupid reason. Just as long as I don't have to like mute the music or anything, which I might just end up doing afterwards. But I just had to show that trailer. That's a great trailer. You have the music of ELO, with Mr. Blue Sky, like. Just a phenomenal trailer, and it gives you a great idea of what this movie is. This is easily the best movie released this weekend, and it follows two individuals, played by Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, who undergo a memory erasure procedure to forget each other after the dissolution of their romantic relationship. And it uses elements of psychological drama, science fiction, and a non-linear narrative to explore the nature of memory and love. So it's kind of like the funny version of Total Recall, except not really funny, but it's less action. I should say less action-packed than Total Recall, but this is a classic movie. This is an amazing, amazing film. For Jim Carrey, I mean, this was a movie that really showed his range as an actor. I mean, he had tried his hand at dramatic roles beforehand with The Truman Show and The Majestic, and this was the one that really, I think, is his best overall dramatic performance. This is a great movie with him in it. Him and Kate Winslet work off each other so well. A phenomenal cast. Kirsten Dunst, Mark Ruffalo, Elijah Wood, Tom Wilkinson. A visual style that is so impressive to look at. Written by Charlie Kaufman, directed by Michel Gondry. Just everything about this movie just works so well. It's a great, great movie. It's easily one of the best movies of the decade, hands down. It's a movie that should have gotten a lot more attention than it deserved. I mean, Jim Carrey, the fact that for the second time in a great movie like this, he gets snubbed for an Academy Award. Like, come on, man. This is a guy that definitely deserved to be nominated up there, and just like they don't want to nominate him because he's a funny guy, and clearly funny people can't be Academy Award winning actors. Jamie Foxx, Jamie Foxx, and hell, Robert Downey Jr. is a funny guy too, but I don't know. This is one of those. It's one of those things that makes you really question the Academy Awards, and that they show favoritism to other specific stars in particular. But it's just like, it's a great role because it's against type. It's against a type that really is not what we expect from Jim Carrey. He's not overselling it like he's doing in something like The Number 23 or in The Majestic, but he's actually playing a character. It's a great character in here. It's a great movie in general. It's a movie that I'm so glad has gotten the respect that it has deserved over the years, but man, it's an amazing movie. I can't recommend this one enough. I can't even really say too much more about it. It hasn't already been said already. Like, clearly, if you haven't seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, you need to get off your ass and go see it, because it's one of the greatest movies of all time. It's an amazing film, a visual splendor to look at, great performances, great writing, great direction, great music, great everything. Just, I love this movie to death. I would die for this movie pretty much. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I'm turning into Riley's in-dream boyfriend from the Inside Out. I would die from this movie. Yeah, I don't know, but I do know that Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is a great movie.
Keep it quiet, Scoob.
When danger lurks, they are there. When terror looms, they're still there. When monsters appear, they're out of there. Look, Doo's back. Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed.
Are you guys okay?
Uh-oh, Shaggy and Scooby fucked up Matthew Lillard, because, man, actually, I take that back. To the film's credit, he does have probably the best line in the whole movie, which perfectly represents the movie itself. There's a part of the movie where he finally loses it and yells at Scooby, like, "You're pushing your luck, Scoob," and it does not sound like Shaggy whatsoever. It literally sounds like Matthew Lillard going, "You're pushing your luck," like, it's him literally talking in his real voice. And I mean, and also give Matthew a little credit, because he eventually did become the permanent voice of Shaggy, and he has so far made that character his own since then. Just, it's these movies, man. Like, The casting overall is not bad. It's just everything else about this movie, from the bad writing, the bad direction. You almost forget that this is written by James Gunn. And in fact, they were hoping that this was going to be successful enough to have a third film in which James Gunn would be the writer and director of it, which, knowing what we know now, probably would have been awesome. But then again, we have this movie here. And it's about as standard of a sequel as you could possibly get. So you have, of course, the Mystery Machine Gang. Is that the Scooby Gang, pretty much? I was going to say that. I thought they had a permanent name, but the Scooby Gang, they like to solve mysteries and have to face the past as multiple enemies from their past show up and begin wreaking havoc all over the city. They have to find a useful way to defeat and put a stop to their past enemies once and for all, which is about as formulaic of a premise as you could possibly get, in a film that really, none of the villains in this movie are that threatening. I mean, the first movie had at least a threatening force behind it. I mean, yeah, it wasn't a great movie, but they were at least trying in that movie. This feels like a movie that's so lazily put together, and you would swear, like, you have to be a Scooby-Doo fan to really know that none of the monsters in this movie even come close to who they've actually faced in the real world, in the animated series. And even the guy who's behind it all is not really that threatening whatsoever. I mean, whenever he shows up, he just comes up, he just is like in the background going like, Mystery Incorporated, like he's talking like Taye Diggs in Equilibrium when he thinks that he's got Christian Bale locked down. Like, he's so over the top, just like, that's what this villain is. It's just like, Mystery Incorporated, look at what I just did. Okay, I'm off now. And he just disappears afterwards, and it's just like, what's the point of this? Like, what is the point of all of this? Like, you could say that for the whole movie. What is the point of this? You know what the point is? Money. The first film made a ton of money. They couldn't even wait until the summer to get this out there because they knew that something like Garfield or what was the big Shrek 2 was gonna beat its ass to the ground. So they said, "Fuck it, let's just put it out in March and hope for the best." And no, even the people that liked the first Scooby-Doo movie looked at this and went, "Okay, no, this is even worse than we could have possibly imagined." Like, the jokes make no sense whatsoever. There are cameos in here that are absolutely pointless. Ruben Studdard has a cameo because he just won the American Idol competition the year before. The Tasmanian Devil shows up for no particular reason. You get Shaggy with boobs if you've ever had that weird fetish of ever wanting to fuck Shaggy, but I know I certainly haven't, but I'm sure there's someone out there that probably would think that, but I don't know, man. Like, this is the one where it's just like, you could just tell they weren't trying whatsoever. Even that trailer I just showed you pales in comparison to the awesomeness of the teaser from the first Scooby-Doo movie. The one that actually made you think that this was actually a Batman movie. But no, this is from the very beginning of the trailer, you could just tell zero fucks were given whatsoever. And they just were waiting for the money to pour in, which at first made money, and it was profitable, but even Warner Brothers looked at this and said, no, we can't do this anymore, man. Like, this is really pushing our luck. But, hey, Roger Gosnell, stick around here, because you'll get a chance to fuck up another Hanna-Barbera property, which was the Smurfs. Okay, technically it wasn't a Hanna-Barbera property. It's originally from Peyo, but the show that we all know comes from Hanna-Barbera, so I guess it kind of evens itself out. But, no, just wait about 8 years, and then Roger Gosnell will fuck up another Hanna-Barbera property in the Smurfs. But yeah, this is just a film that, it's a shame because the cast overall is not bad. Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar, Matthew Lillard, Linda Cardellini, they look like the characters from Scooby-Doo. They're just not really given a whole lot to do here. I guess the only other thing that's positive about the movie is that you get to see Linda Cardellini in spandex, which, win-win, sort of. I don't know. I'm trying to look for some positives here, people. It's bad when the movie is literally ending with a cheat code for a video game. The post-credits sequence is nothing but Scooby-Doo playing a Game Boy Advance, and they show a cheat code on there. That's the literal end of the movie. Like you wait for the end, waiting for something like a cliffhanger ending for the next movie, and nope, just a cheat code for a game that I guarantee you nobody ever played. I played Game Boy Advance a lot back in the day, and I'm sorry, I was not that person. I would have never played this game in my entire life, and just the casting overall in this is just completely wasted. Seth Green is wasted here. Alicia Silverstone, who hadn't made anything of noteworthiness after the double whammy of Batman and Robin and Excess Baggage. Peter Boyle, just a bad movie, just a bad movie. And I guess you could say that Scoob's probably the best of the animated theatrical Scooby-Doo movies, but even then, that movie was not that great. But just goes to show you the animation kicks the crap out of live action again. I guess we could throw that in there as well, but I've literally got enough of those at this point. I mean, I'm grasping at straws here to find anything else that hasn't been said already, but Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, just a bad movie. Just a really, really bad movie. Speaking of movies that you kind of expect a lot better from, here's an even bigger disappointment. Tom Hanks starring in the Coen Brothers' The Lady Killers.
Just love the booty. He's the ultimate con man. Planning the ultimate con. But he never planned on his landlady.
That's up.
Oh dear. Tom Hanks.
The old woman has complicated the situation.
On March 26th, the mastermind
I can't do it. She remind me of my mama.
beats his match.
Damn. Oh, no heavy hop language in here.
The Lady Killers.
You ain't gonna hit me. Oh.
And this really is a major disappointment, because at least with Scooby-Doo 2, you kind of figured that they were really going to drop the ball on that one, but this is just inexcusable. You got the Coen Brothers, you got Tom Hanks in a role that is against type and looks like he's having the time of his life with it, but the film is just a really bad movie. This was back when the Coen Brothers were trying to go more mainstream, and not every attempt they had at this was very successful. And Intolerable Cruelty was not a great film overall, but at least that one was at least trying. Even something like The Hudsucker Proxy, which I think is a much better movie, is a little bit more mainstream than their usual stuff here. And in this, you have essentially a remake of the 1955 comedy, which revolves around a Southern professor played by Tom Hanks, who puts together a group of thieves to rob a casino. They rent a room in this old woman's house played by Irma P. Hall, but she soon discovers the plot and then they try to figure out how to kill her, which is a task that is more difficult than it seems. Irma P. Hall is a great character actress, and the fact that she's getting a lead role in this is really, it's incredible to think about, because she's been a great character actress for so many years. And again, the pieces are there. You got Marlon Wayans, you got J.K. Simmons, George Wallace is in here, Stephen Root, Greg Grunberg, Blake Clark, Aldous Hodge, Jeremy Suarez, Bruce Campbell has a cameo in here. The pieces are so there, and it just falls apart at the seams really quickly. All the fun stuff is in the trailer. The only real positive you can take from this movie is the fact that Tom Hanks probably is the best thing about the movie. And it's not his fault that the movie is bad. It's just a poorly written script in general. And I think for the Coen Brothers, this is the movie that woke them back up and realized, okay, we can't keep making these mainstream movies until we really know what we're doing. And eventually their next movie was not only one of their more successful movies with No Country for Old Men, but it was a movie that went on to become a Best Picture winner at the Academy Awards. So there is a happy ending to this after all of this. But yeah, The Big Lebowski. I'm sorry, Big Lebowski. I did not want to put you in the same category as this movie, because you're a classic movie. The Lady Killers is not. It's a film that is just so badly put together. It's a film that wastes a lot of talent creatively. Tom Hanks' performance deserves a better movie than this, and this is just a bad movie. Just a really, really, really bad movie. And, so with that said, how about some more disappointment for you? Have you had enough yet? Here's Kevin Smith's mainstream attempt at a mainstream movie with Ben Affleck. Can he finally turn the tide after so many bad movies that we've looked at of his? Let's see if we can fix that with Jersey Girl.
Are in love with Jersey Girl. It's utterly entertaining. It's a smart, funny, romantic comedy, simply irresistible. Jersey Girl. Starts right.
Again, kind of like with The Lady Killers, the pieces are there. I mean, Ben Affleck has been proven to be a great actor over the years. You got Liv Tyler, who's proven to be a great actress. George Carlin, this is one of his last film performances. Stephen Root, Mike Starr, Jason Biggs. This is something that Kevin Smith was trying to do that was completely different from the movies that made his name with the Viewers universe. In fact, Jay and Silent Bob don't even show up in this movie, although they're in the opening logos, which obviously they're going to be there because they're kind of the mascots of this universe that Kevin Smith put together. For Kevin Smith, it was a big deal for him. It was his first major movie where he was given a huge profit, a huge budget of $35 million, and it barely made that back. And it's not like the movie isn't trying either. You have a story where Ben Affleck plays a widowed man who must take care of his precocious daughter after her mother dies during childbirth. And guess who the mother is played by? Jennifer Lopez. They were, even though they were already well divorced well split up at this point, and they technically didn't get married. I don't think. Did they get married? I don't know. Now I'm kind of. Now I should know this, but eventually, okay, they didn't get married back then. They got married in 2002, but in 2022. Excuse me, 2022. But you get the idea here. It was very awkward right from the get-go, and I don't know. Like, this is a movie that I feel is, it's funny because on Time About the Movie's flashback, just recently, we looked at She's Having a Baby. And Kevin Smith actually says that's one of his favorite John Hughes films, and he compares it similarly to Jersey Girl because both of those movies underperformed. And it's very interesting because both movies have a lot of good ideas to them, have a lot of things that should work, some great talent overall, but it's a film that just really doesn't feel like it deserves the full attention that it gets. It doesn't deserve your full attention overall, is what I'm trying to say. And it just feels like a film that really... You can tell Kevin Smith was trying his best with it, and this isn't like Cop Out, which was the other time he was trying to go more mainstream, and it just failed miserably. This is a film that was at least trying to work. It's a film that's at least trying to work even for the mainstream romantic comedy audience that this movie was clearly going for, but it just didn't work out in the end. And I think because Kevin Smith kind of stepped out of his boundary territory, this is actually his first film to receive a PG-13 rating, which is very rare for him in general. I think only Cop Out was the other one with a PG-13 rating, if I'm not mistaken. But I think it was just outside of his norm in general. And give him a lot of credit for at least trying to make it work, but in the end, it just really didn't come together as well. But for Ben Affleck, I'll give him this. I think I said Paycheck was probably his best film during this stretch of bad movies. I'll take that back and say that this film is almost on that. I would probably say that this is probably his overall best film in that little stretch, but that doesn't mean that it's a great film in general. It's kind of like with Cuba Gooding Jr. The Fighting Temptations is a good movie, but not a great film compared to some of the bad movies he was making the year before. But certainly a better comedy that he put together than Surviving Christmas, and trust me, we're gonna get to that one. I keep building it up. It's like you hyping it up to be this big thing, and yeah, this one, Surviving Christmas, was a pretty big deal back then for me personally. But we'll get to that one when we get to Halloween, which yeah, we're gonna have some good times with that one. I can guarantee you that. But yeah, that's Jersey Girl. Just a decent film, but not one you're going to want to watch again anytime soon. For a one-time watch, I thought it was fine, but I've had no real intentions of never watching this ever again. But I digress. 3 disappointments so far, 3 bad movies in general. Can the savior of the weekend be DMX with his movie Never Die Alone? Well, let's find out.
On the streets, he was king. Today's the day I start making amends. But when he tried to give it up, miss me? How did somebody possibly miss you? It all came down. Let's call the king.
Let me guess, you're looking for a queen?
On March 26th. Guys, it don't feel good. DMX. Will never die alone. Rated R. Starts Friday, March 26th.
Short answer, no. Long answer, well, you have DMX starring in a film noir centering around a hard-boiled stylist kingpin drug dealer called King David, who returns to his hometown seeking redemption but ends up only finding violent death. King David's final moments are spent with Paul, an aspiring journalist who knew him for just a few minutes, yet King David would forever make an impact on Paul's life. Half preacher, half Satan, and all street smarts, King David has recorded the story of his exploits on audio tape, leaving behind an often poetic sermon on villainy and its consequences. The tape reveals the cycle of violence and retribution, which his actions have spawned, have come back to him full circle, and he suspects they might be all along. And this has a good director behind it, Ernie Dickerson, who was Spike Lee's original cinematographer. He's made some movies that we've talked about that have actually been pretty good. Juice, Surviving the Game, Demon Knight, Bulletproof. Just a good director, a decent director overall, but this is one of those movies that was literally trying to cash in on Eminem's success with 8 Mile, and DMX has proven that he can act in some movies before this, but I mean, okay, I'll take it back. DMX, I think, really is the strongest part of the movie because he is the one thing about the movie that carries the load. I think he does play the performance of King David very well here. It's the movie itself that just really is a mess. Like, it's clearly got the stuff to tease the audience, like the bootlegs, like you got the sexy lady taking off her clothes in sexy lingerie, and you know, like I said, it's pretty much what you think it's going to be. It's a movie that really is kind of lazy. It doesn't really have a lot of ideas of what street culture is. It's a hood film that's trying to be something similar to what Spike Lee did with something like with something like his early movies, but it never really goes that route, and it's a shame because, kind of like with some of the movies we talked about on the show, a good performance by DMX is being completely wasted on a film that really needed a better screenwriter in general. But then again, this is a film that feels like they wanted to cash in on the success of 8 Mile because Eminem showed that he could make a hit movie and win an Oscar for it, and they were hoping to do the same thing with this, but sadly, you need a better script in general to make it work, and a good cast here completely wasted. You know, Michael Ealy, David Arquette, Regan Gomez Preston, Lunel, Drew Sidora, Keisha Sharp, Tiny Lister Jr., Henry Gibson has a cameo in here. There's Aisha Tyler. Good people overall here. Just not a great film to carry the load for, and it's a shame because DMX really is trying his best to hold it together, and it's just not enough to carry the load. I think I didn't mention Michael Ealy, but I thought I did, but he's another great performance in here that's kind of completely wasted, but just not a good movie in the end. Just a really, really lackluster film. It felt like they were kind of pushing this out there because they knew there wasn't going to be an audience for it, and the results have spoken for themselves. So yeah, that's Never Die Alone.